Hey, I'm going to vent off a bit of steam again, and whether or not I keep this video, I don't know, because I've uploaded videos similar to this before, but what the hell, just need to vent off a little bit of steam. Um, I've just come across a feed on Facebook. You know, you get all sorts of feeds from links and so on. Apparently, it's 10 years since the Jeremy Kyle show was first launched. 10 years. It's a long time. In my opinion, way too long. Um, Just up front, I'm going to say I hate this show and I have contempt for the man who presents it. The namesake, Jimmy Carnell. Um, by this video, I'm not particularly wanting to change anyone's mind. If they're a fan of the show, this video isn't going to change their mind. But like I say, it's just a rant, really. Um, if you're not familiar with what this is, to my American subscribers, basically think Jerry Springer, but real. The storylines are real. Jerry Springer is widely been alleged to be set up, and I mean, it's the epitome of trash TV. Jeremy Kyle is trash TV, but it's worse because the scenarios, the guests, and so on come from genuinely real situations. Um, Recently, someone replied to a comment I'd made in one of the Kyle videos. I've made a lot of comments over the years. Not that I spend a lot of time doing it, but occasionally I do leave my thoughts there. And he said he'd been a guest on the show and it helped him to straighten himself out. Now, I don't know if that person was being honest or not, but it does make me consider that, yeah, okay, you may have guests that believe it is a good experience. But I still believe this show is fundamentally a bad thing because fundamentally what it comes down to is using people's real broken lives as some sort of form of sick entertainment. And I have to say, I have no respect for that studio audience. And I don't care if I make myself unpopular by saying that. But I do wonder about the mentality of people who find entertainment in other people's suffering or other people's blatant national humiliation. Now, the justification line is always, well, no one forces him to go on. And can't argue against that. That's true. You can't, he doesn't force him to go on. But what people fail to realize is that Jeremy Kyle and his producers are very, very clever manipulators. There have been many examples, actually, of guests being misled as to what the purpose of their appearance on the show was going to be. The bottom line is Jeremy Kyle, if you look at his background, he's not a professional psychologist, he's not a professional counselor. He has a background as a DJ at, I believe, a Somerset radio station. This guy is not a professional. Um, I actually love Jeremy Kyle because I believe this is a man who has made his fame and fortune out of exploiting broken people. And okay, they may get a cash incentive to appear on the show, but this has to be the most cynical sort of approach to entertainment I can think of. Um, I just think there's something very twisted about deliberately stirring up the emotions of these guests in order to get a reaction and boost ratings. Before the guests appear, Kyle will always say, "We're not here to judge. We're going to hear them out." But then he will goad them and attack them verbally and try to provoke them so that they do come across in a negative light, and then the very smug, sturdy audience can jeer. I've challenged Jeremy Kyle fans before, and I've made the point to them that they watch the show to feel good about themselves. Now, one guy replied, "Oh well, I am better than the guests. I don't beat my wife, and I don't. I have a job and all this sort of thing." So there's definitely a very smug attitude from those who watch the show. I'm convinced they watch it to feel good about themselves. But quite frankly, I really do think they're no better than the guests. Now, there's no question about it. Some of the guests are thoroughly unpleasant individuals. I'm not naive. I can see that. And I have no intention of making excuses for wife beaters or serial shoplifters or whatever other sort of unpleasant guests he will bring on. But there are other guests, I suspect quite a lot of others, who obviously have serious mental health problems, and the fact that they agree to appearing on the show, it's it's a phony excuse because it's a bit like You know, a few years ago, there's those two young documentary filmmakers who attracted controversy with Bum Fight, which was basically they paid homeless guys to beat each other to a pulp, and the incentive was they would get some money and appear on YouTube. Now, that was widely condemned as a very sick sort of thing. I don't see much difference with the Jeremy Kyle show, really. So the fact that the guests agreed to it, there may be some guests who genuinely benefit from it, and maybe it gives them a wake-up call to sort themselves out. But I suspect in most cases it makes things worse because all it does is stir up their emotions. I don't see how having your personal problems plastered all over national television can in any way help a situation. Because if you are a guest and you feel that the whole audience is against you, and Kyle is trying to goad you and humiliate you, and then whoever you're having the argument with in your personal life, if you feel the whole world is out against you, I don't see how that is going to possibly get that person to change. You know, this is like the modern equivalent of putting someone in the pillory, and I think it's just twisted. Um, and the thing about Kyle is he knows damn well what he's doing, and he thinks he's this role model citizen. He's always preaching about what a great guy he is, what a great father he is, what a great husband he is. But actually, if you look at his background, he's not that squeaky clean himself. And the thing is, if he genuinely believes that what he's doing is helping these people, my question would be, well, why are you turning it into a form of entertainment? You know, why not become one of the country's leading psychologists? Why not really help these people? Why not set up a situation whereby you're helping them without turning their troubles into entertainment? That's the bit I cannot stomach. And there's something very, very twisted about that when you really think about it. And I don't know how anybody with an ounce of a conscience can possibly justify this show. I just don't understand how anyone could do that. This has nothing to do with being snobby and sort of, it's just about being a decent human being. And from what I've seen, the vast majority of people that I have seen who don't watch the show either have very strong views about it or don't like it. The only people that make excuses for Kyle and his sick show are those who watch it. They're the only people who do. Whereas other shows, you know, people would not really care about it. They'd be neutral on. But to a person, I have seen those who don't watch the show do not like it. Now there is a clear reason for that. I know there's a clear reason for the controversy because people see this as human bear baiting. Now, people might say, well, you get that in boxing as well. Um, and I can understand the argument that they're coming from there, but there is some differences. In a boxing match, there is much more of an equilibrium in the sense that it's not perfect, but guys train for weeks on end, they get into a ring and they fight. I can understand detractors, I can understand that. But these are tough men who are trained emotionally and physically to be prepared for that situation. I believe a lot of the guests on Jeremy Kyle are not prepared for that situation. And I am convinced that the producers care a lot more about ratings than they do about the welfare of their guests. Are we really to believe that Kyle and his producers really, really care about the welfare of guests? Because think about it, if they get in their mind a golden storyline, a really extravagant storyline, you know, someone's sleeping with someone else and it's their brother's wife or whatever it is, and that person has contacted the Kyle show for whatever reason, you know, maybe they want the 15 minutes of fame, but whatever it is. Now, let's say they want to pull out at the last moment. I doubt that Kyle and his producers will simply say, okay, fair enough. If you don't want to appear, we're not going to force you. I'm convinced they would do the opposite and try their damn best to coerce that person into appearing. So to me, I just cannot stomach this. Now, fans might say, oh, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Well, I don't watch it actually, but I believe that it is a reflection of modern society when a show like this can get as much support as it does. And I just have contempt for this man. I also despise the way he brings on extreme cases and then tells his studio audience and tells the viewers that everyone is like this. For example, he will take someone who is abusing the benefit system and he will say that all the unemployed are like this. And the studio audience are either thick or um, willfully ignorant. They buy into it. So do the viewers. If you look at the sort of mentality of a lot of Jeremy Kyle fans, they tend to be very callous and shallow people. Some of them are intelligent, and in my opinion, they're much worse. Because if you're an intelligent person and you make excuses for this show, then frankly, there's something very wrong with you. I don't care if that sounds judgmental, because Saint Jeremy Kyle has to be the most arrogant celebrity I can think of. And believe me, there's a wide field for that. Well, of course, there's Miss Katie Hopkins. God help us if she has her own show because she'll become a female Jeremy Kyle, possibly even worse. Now, the thing is, he's clever because what he'll do is he will bring on some genuinely despicable people. I remember he invited representatives of the Westboro Baptist Church, you know, the really loudmouth, extremely homophobic, thoroughly unpleasant hate group. That's pretty easy for Kyle to focus on them because most people would agree they're despicable. But it's quite clever because then he portrays himself as being a sort of moderate, and actually Kyle isn't moderate at all. He's quite a dangerous individual. Anyway, I'll leave the rant there. I hate that show, and I cannot wait for it to be taken off air. It's not going to last forever. Hopefully, the ratings will go down. I don't know how they compare to when it was launched in 2005, but it won't last forever. And I swear I will open a champagne the day that sick show gets taken off air, on the premise that is that there isn't some equivalent show around at the same time.